sold into slavery by her family. Alien girl found love with the human saved hers. The desert planet of Kalira was quiet in the wrong way. Its skies were pale, its cities old, and its people tired. Saley stood at the edge of her family's small home and watched the wind move dust across the empty street. The wind never stopped on Kalira. It always carried sand, always whispered of things that were leaving and never coming back. Saley was 16 cycles old. By the standards of her species, she was still young. Her kind, the Liarni, were known across the galaxy for their soft voices, calm nature, and strong emotional bonds. They were healers, caretakers, and artists. They were also considered weak. Saley knew this. Everyone did. Inside the house, her parents spoke in low voices. They thought she could not hear them, but Liarni ears were sensitive and fear made sounds louder. "The debt collectors will return tomorrow," her father said. His voice shook. "We have nothing left to trade." Her mother said nothing at first. Then very quietly she replied, "There is one thing." Silence followed, heavy, final. Saley did not cry, she already knew. For months food had grown scarce. Medical supplies had been sold. Their home was smaller now, the walls thinner. The galaxy had moved on, and Kalira had been left behind. The trade syndicates offered credits in exchange for contracts. Everyone pretended not to know what those contracts meant. Selling a daughter was not called slavery. It was called service relocation. Legal words made pain easier to ignore. When Saley entered the room, her parents looked at her with eyes full of shame and love mixed together. That was the worst part. "We will buy medicine for your brothers," her mother said, tears running down her face. "We will survive." Saley nodded. Liarni children were taught early to protect the group. Sacrifice was not bravery, it was duty. "I understand," Saley said softly. The next morning the transport ship arrived. The slaver vessel was large and gray, with no symbols and no windows. Inside, everything smelled of metal and cold air. Saley was given a simple wristband that glowed faintly blue. It tracked her location. She was not chained, she did not need to be. Around her, others sat in silence. Some cried, some stared into nothing. Many were young. The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, and Kalira vanished forever. The Vierks trade station was one of the largest markets in that sector of space. Built inside a hollowed asteroid, it rotated slowly, artificial gravity holding everything in place. Neon signs in dozens of alien languages lit the corridors. Music played. Laughter echoed. It was a place of business. Saley stood on a raised platform among others, each assigned a number instead of a name. Buyers walked past, examining them as if they were tools. Species Saley had only seen in books stared at her with interest or boredom. She kept her eyes down. Liarni believed that direct eye contact was a form of trust. Here, trust was dangerous. Time passed slowly. Some were taken away. Others returned, rejected. Every time footsteps stopped in front of her, Saley's chest tightened. Then the shouting started. Across the market, a tall alien buyer argued with a trader. Voices rose. Credits were discussed. Security drones floated closer. Saley looked up by accident. That was when she saw him. He stood apart from the crowd, near the edge of the market floor. He was taller than most beings around him, broad-shouldered with dark hair and tired eyes. His skin tone was light brown and his clothes were plain work clothing, not armor or trade silks. A human. Humans were rare here. They were still new to interstellar trade. Most species thought of them as loud, emotional, and unimportant, not dangerous, not valuable. This human was not shouting or buying, he was watching. His eyes moved slowly over the market, his jaw tight. He looked angry but not wild, controlled, focused. When his gaze reached Saley, he froze. For a moment, neither of them looked away. Saley felt something strange. Not hope, not yet, something else. Confusion. The human frowned as if trying to understand something that did not fit in his world. Then a trader stepped between them, breaking the moment. Eli Carter had not planned to come to the market. He was a systems engineer contracted to repair station power relays. His job paid well enough. He avoided trouble. He stayed neutral. That was how humans survived in unfamiliar space. But when his work ended early, curiosity pulled him toward the trade district. He told himself he was only looking. That lie ended the moment he saw the platforms. Eli had read reports. He knew slavery existed in many systems, hidden behind legal terms, but reading and seeing were different things. The sight made his stomach turn. He noticed the quiet first, not the noise of the market but the silence of those standing still, the way they avoided looking hopeful, the way fear lived in their posture. Then he saw her. She was smaller than most, with pale blue skin and faint glowing patterns along her arms. Her eyes were large and dark, full of something that hurt to look at, not fear, acceptance. Eli felt anger rise fast and sharp. He had grown up hearing stories about Earth's past, about how humans once justified terrible things by calling them normal, necessary, legal. He had promised himself to be better. He turned to the nearest trader. "What is this?" he asked. The trader glanced at him, unimpressed. "Market, can't you read?" "You're selling people," Eli said. The trader snorted. "Contracts. If you're not buying, move." Eli looked back at Sally. She had lowered her gaze again. Something inside him refused to stay quiet. Hours later, Sally's number was called. She was guided off the platform into a smaller room. Her heart pounded. She did not know who had chosen her. She prepared herself to obey. The door opened. The human stepped inside. Sally froze. He looked just as tired up close, older than she first thought. His eyes softened when he saw her fear. "I won't hurt you," he said quickly, speaking in careful galactic common. "I promise." She did not answer. "I'm Eli," he continued. "You're Sally, right?" She nodded slowly, confused. Buyers did not usually ask names. I saw you out there," he said, "and I couldn't walk away." Sally waited. Hope was dangerous. "I bought your contract," Eli said. Her world tilted. "Then I belong to you," she whispered. Eli shook his head firmly. "No, that's not how this works." He held up a data pad and showed her the screen. Legal text scrolled across it. "Human law recognizes you as a protected dependent," he explained. "You're not property. You're free." The word felt unreal. "Why?" Sally asked. Eli swallowed. "Because you shouldn't have been there." No one had ever said that to her before. Outside the room, alarms rang, traders shouted, paperwork flew across systems. Eli knew he had started something big. But as Sally took her first step toward a future she had never imagined, one truth became clear. The galaxy had made a mistake. It had let a human see injustice, and humans did not look away. The moment Eli Carter walked Sally out of the holding room, the trade station changed its mood. Eyes followed them. Some were curious, some were angry, some were amused. Sally felt it immediately. Her steps slowed and her hands trembled at her sides. The wide corridor suddenly felt too open, too bright. She had lived her whole life learning how not to attract attention. Now every step felt wrong. Eli noticed. "Stay close," he said quietly, not as an order but as advice. She moved beside him. He did not touch her. That mattered more than he knew. Security drones floated closer, their lights shifting from neutral blue to warning yellow. Traders whispered to each other. A tall Vierx official stepped into their path. "You are violating trade protocol," the official said sharply. "That individual is registered property." Eli stopped. He stood straight and met the alien's gaze. "She is under human protective statute," Eli replied calmly. "Filed and approved." The official's eyes narrowed. "Humans are guests here," Eli nodded. "Then guests who follow the law." The official scanned Eli's data pad. The pause grew long, too long. Sally held her breath. Finally, the official clicked his mandibles in annoyance and stepped aside. "This is not finished," he warned. Eli nodded again. "Most important things are." They walked on. Sally did not understand what was happening. Freedom felt unreal, like a dream that would break if she moved too fast. She waited for pain, for betrayal, for someone to grab her arm and pull her back. None of that happened. Instead, Eli led her onto a human ship docked at the outer ring of the station. It was small compared to the massive alien freighters, clean, simple, and quiet. The air inside smelled different, warm, familiar somehow. "You're safe here," Eli said. Saley sat slowly on one of the seats, unsure if she was allowed. Her chest hurt, not from fear but from holding feelings she had never been allowed to feel. "What happens now?" she asked softly. Eli exhaled. "Now we wait, and we prepare." "For what?" "For the galaxy to push back." They did not wait long. Within hours, official messages arrived, first polite, then firm, then threatening. Trade syndicates demanded Saley's return. They claimed breach of contract, cultural interference, economic damage. Saley listened from the corner of the ship, her knees drawn close. Each message made her shrink further into herself. "I'm causing you trouble," she said quietly. Eli looked at her, surprised. "No, they are." "If I go back," she said, voice shaking, "this will stop." Eli stood up slowly. "Saley," he said carefully, "did you choose to be sold?" She shook her head. "Did you choose to be bought?" "No." "Then the trouble isn't you." She looked at him, unsure. Lyerny were taught that harmony mattered more than fairness. Causing conflict felt like sin, but Eli did not see conflict. He saw wrongness. News spread quickly. A human had interfered with the market. A human had used old laws no one cared about. A human had freed property. Other species reacted with laughter at first, then irritation, then concern. Human ships began to arrive at Vierk Station, not warships but civilian vessels. Lawyers, medics, cultural experts, observers, they spoke calmly, politely, relentlessly. They asked questions. Why were entire species allowed to sell their young? Why were contracts permanent? Why was consent never mentioned? The galaxy was not used to this kind of pressure. Humans did not shout. They documented. Saley watched all of this from the ship, confused and overwhelmed. Eli brought her food, real food, not nutrient paste. He explained things slowly. He never raised his voice. Sometimes he told her stories about Earth, about blue oceans and green forests, about how humans once did terrible things and then decided to stop. "Not all of us," he admitted, "but enough." Saley listened carefully. "You fight your own people?" she asked. "All the time," Eli said with a small smile. "That's how change happens." The idea was strange to her. On Kalira, tradition was law, questioning elders was shameful. "But why help me?" she asked one night. Eli was quiet for a long moment. "Because," he said finally, "someone once helped my family when they didn't have to, and because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't." Saley did not fully understand, but she believed him. The pressure increased. Trade syndicates froze Eli's accounts. Station services were denied. Warnings were issued. Saley heard raised voices outside the ship, threats spoken in many languages. Fear returned. One night Saley stood alone by the small viewport, staring at the stars. Her parents' faces filled her mind. Their shame, their tears, their choice. She realized something painful. They had loved her. They had still sold her. Tears fell silently. Eli found her there. "I don't belong anywhere," she whispered. Eli stood beside her, not too close. "Belonging isn't something you're given," he said. "It's something you build." "With who?" "With people who see you." She turned to him slowly. He saw her. The breaking point came on the 7th day. Station security attempted to board the ship. Human representatives blocked the docking ring. Legal documents flew across networks faster than weapons ever could. Eli stood at the center of it, calm but tired. Saley watched from behind him as the galaxy argued over her existence. For the first time she spoke. "I choose," she said, her voice soft but clear. Everyone turned. "I choose to stay," she continued. "I choose not to be owned." Silence followed. Choice was dangerous. Choice was human. The station authorities backed down, not because they wanted to, but because they had no legal ground left. Human law had forced a crack into an ancient system, and cracks spread. That night the ship undocked. Vyerk's station grew smaller behind them. Sally felt something lift from her chest. She was still afraid, still healing, still unsure of the future. But for the first time in her life, the path ahead was not chosen for her. Eli stood at the controls, guiding the ship toward open space. Neither of them spoke. They did not need to. Somewhere in the vast silence between stars, a quiet truth formed. The galaxy had underestimated humans, not because they were strong, but because when a human chose to care, they did not stop. The human ship moved quietly through open space. Stars passed slowly outside the viewport, cold and endless. Sally sat in a small chair near the window, watching the light stretch and bend. Every jump between systems felt like a breath she had been holding all her life, finally released. But peace did not come with silence. Messages followed them. Some were warnings, some were demands. Some were thinly hidden threats. Trade syndicates wanted Sally returned. Liarny elders sent formal requests filled with careful words and old traditions. They said Sally's freedom would shame her family. They said humans were poisoning her mind. Sally read them all. Each message hurt in a different way. She can ignore them, one human legal advisor suggested over a secure channel. Sally shook her head slowly. I need to understand, she said. This is my people. Eli watched her carefully. He did not interrupt. He had learned that silence could be a form of respect. The ship arrived at a human-controlled station on the edge of neutral space. It was not large or impressive. No giant statues, no shining towers, just order, just fairness. As soon as they docked, medical staff greeted Sally, not to examine her as property but to ask permission. May we help you? A human doctor asked gently. The question stunned her. Yes, she whispered. The doctor smiled and waited for her to move first. That night, Sally slept without fear for the first time since leaving Kalira. Across the galaxy, the situation worsened. The trade syndicates filed complaints against humanity. They accused humans of cultural destruction and economic interference. Human representatives responded calmly. They did not deny interference. They justified it. They presented records, contracts, histories. They showed patterns of abuse hidden behind polite words. They asked the same question again and again. Where is consent? The galaxy did not like that question. Sally began training with human counselors and cultural guides, not to erase her past, but to understand it. She learned that humans valued individual choice above tradition. That disagreement was not shameful. That authority was meant to be questioned. At first, these ideas frightened her. Then they began to feel freeing. One afternoon, Sally joined Eli in the station's observation hall. Humans and aliens passed by together, talking, arguing, laughing. They look so loud, Sally said. Eli smiled. That's us being calm. She laughed softly, surprising herself. The backlash finally became personal. A Liarny delegation arrived at the station. Sally stood before them in a quiet chamber. Her family was not among them, but elders who had shaped her world since birth. You are damaging our survival, one elder said gently. Your sacrifice fed many. Sally's hands trembled. I did not choose to be sacrificed, she replied. You are young, the elder said. You do not understand necessity. Sally lifted her head. Her voice shook, but it did not break. I understand fear, she said, and I understand that fear is not justice. The elders left in silence. Eli watched from outside the room, pride and concern mixing in his chest. She was becoming strong, and strength frightened systems built on silence. Threats followed. Trade routes were closed to human ships. Stations denied docking rights. Accidents increased in dangerous ways. Humans responded the way they always did, together. Human cargo captains shared resources. Medical ships rerouted to help stranded crews. Lawyers worked around the clock. Humanity did not attack. Humanity endured. Saley saw something important. Humans were not united by blood or culture. They were united by stubbornness. One night Saley found Eli sitting alone, staring at a data screen filled with warnings. "This is because of me," she said. Eli looked up. His eyes were tired but steady. "This is because of choice," he corrected, "and because systems don't like being questioned." She sat beside him. "If it becomes too dangerous," she said, "I can leave." Eli shook his head. "You won't be safer alone, and we won't be better if we abandon you." She felt warmth spread through her chest. Not obligation, belonging. The turning point came sooner than expected. A public hearing was announced, open to all species. The topic, the legality of generational service contracts. Everyone knew what that meant. Saley was asked to speak. Fear tried to stop her. Her past told her to stay quiet, but her present stood beside her. When she stepped onto the platform, the galaxy watched. "I was sold," Saley said simply. "Not because I was bad, not because I chose it, but because my people were afraid." She paused. "I was told fear was necessary, that survival required sacrifice." Her eyes found Eli in the crowd. "A human showed me another way." The chamber was silent. "Choice does not destroy culture," she continued. "It reveals it." When she finished, something had changed. Not everywhere, but enough. The ruling did not end slavery overnight, but it cracked the foundation. Generational contracts were suspended pending review. Oversight was enforced. Consent laws were introduced. The trade syndicates lost power. Humanity gained a reputation. They were now called interferers. Humans accepted the title. Saley stood again at the observation window days later. The galaxy was still dangerous, still unfair, but it was moving, slowly. She felt Eli's presence beside her. "Thank you," she said. He shook his head. "You did the hardest part." "What's that?" "Speaking." She smiled. For the first time she felt equal. And in the distance, as stars burned quietly, the galaxy learned another lesson. Humans do not need armies to change the universe. They just need one person worth standing for. Change did not come all at once. It never did. After the public hearing, the galaxy did not suddenly become kind. Slavery did not vanish overnight. Traditions did not break easily. But something important had happened. The silence was gone. Questions spread from system to system. Younger generations asked elders why fear had been allowed to rule for so long. Traders demanded clearer laws. Even species that once ignored suffering began to worry about being watched, and humans watched carefully. Saley felt the weight of it every day. She was no longer just a survivor. She had become a symbol. That frightened her more than chains ever had. Months passed. Saley lived on a human station near the edge of shared space. She studied languages, law basics, and galactic history. Humans believed knowledge was armor and they gave it freely. At first she felt slow and unsure, but humans were patient. They asked her opinions. They listened when she spoke. They argued with her and expected her to argue back. For a Liarny, this was terrifying. For Saley, it was freeing. Eli watched her change quietly. She stood straighter now. Her eyes no longer dropped when spoken to. She laughed more, sometimes loudly. She was still gentle, but she was no longer small. The final decision from the Interstellar Council came 1 year later. Generational service contracts were officially outlawed in shared space. Consent became mandatory. Oversight committees were created. It was not perfect, but it was real. Humanity had not won a war. They had won an argument, and the galaxy hated that more than defeat. Saley received a message from Kalira, from her mother. It was short, careful, full of regret. "We were wrong," it said. "We were afraid. If you can forgive us, we will wait." Saley read the message many times. Forgiveness did not come easily, but it came. She sent a reply, "I survived, I am free, that matters." She did not return to Kalira, not yet. One evening, Saley and Eli stood together on a balcony overlooking a blue planet below. Oceans reflected sunlight. Clouds drifted slowly. "Earth?" Saley asked. "Not quite," Eli replied, "but close enough." They stood in comfortable silence. "You could have walked away," Saley said quietly. "At the market?" Eli nodded. "Yes. But you didn't." "No," she turned to him. "Why?" Eli thought carefully. Humans valued honest answers. "Because," he said, "if I had, I would have become someone I didn't want to be." Saley felt warmth spread through her chest. Not gratitude, something deeper. Time continued to move forward. Saley was invited to speak again, this time not as a victim but as a representative. A bridge between cultures, she accepted, with fear, with pride. She stood beside humans, not behind them. The galaxy listened. Love did not arrive suddenly. It grew in shared meals, in quiet talks, in long nights where fear slowly loosened its grip. Eli never claimed her, never assumed. One day Saley realized she was choosing him. That choice mattered more than anything. She told him simply. "I care for you," she said. Eli did not rush forward. He smiled, soft and real. "I care for you too," he replied. That was enough. Years later, Saley stood in the grand hall of the Interstellar Council. She was no longer afraid. Her voice carried across the chamber as she spoke of dignity, consent, and responsibility. She spoke of humanity, not as heroes, but as neighbors who refused to look away. Eli watched from the crowd, older now but steady, proud. When the session ended, Saley stepped outside into the open light of 1,000 stars. The galaxy was still dangerous, still unfair, still learning, but it was better than it had been, because one human had chosen to care, because one alien had chosen to speak, because freedom, once tasted, was impossible to forget. Saley took Eli's hand, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. And somewhere, far beyond laws and borders, the universe accepted a final truth. Humans do not save others to own them. They save them so they can choose.